I'd like to give a big shout out to the HOODOO Gurus, who have given us permission to use part of their song That's My Team as our new podcast episode intro for all of their music. And whenever they are going live or performing live, head to their Facebook and their Instagram. The links will be in the description below. Be sure to give them a like and a follow as well on Facebook and Instagram. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Final Tackle podcast, and we're actually joined all the way over the other side of the world in Ireland by AFL Women's Collingwood Magpies midfielder, and she also played for Kilmormoy, DCU, and currently plays for Mayo in the Gaelic Athletic Association Ladies Competition as a midfielder. Her name is Sarah Rowe. Thank you very much for joining us here on the Final Tackle.
Thanks for having me. Delighted to be a part of it.
Yeah, no worries. So obviously, just the elephant in the room. Obviously, you're Irish, so you're a import for the AFLW from Ireland, from the Gaelic football. Did you find it relatively easy or difficult to transition between Gaelic football to AFL?
Yeah, like there was elements of the game that were hard to transition. Like obviously the shape of the ball is different.
Yep.
Gaelic football is non-contact, so the contact side of things, and I suppose going from an amateur background to a professional background as well, was also, you know, a bit of a change for me. And then of course moving across the other side of the world and essentially having different climate, no family, no friends or anything. So like all them things, while yes, a challenge, a very enjoyable challenge, and one that I suppose I just wanted to take in my stride. And I think going over, I was conscious that I needed to be, you know, as physically fit and strong as possible, because I had so many other things to learn, like the aspects of the game and the rules and all that. And I suppose you had to make all the mistakes to actually learn. So I made plenty of mistakes along the way, and you know, Collingwood were a great club and they looked after me from the minute I stepped foot into the club. So I was very fortunate to go to that club and very grateful for all they've done for me.
Honestly, that's wonderful to hear. And given that the AFL has just announced yesterday, both of our times actually, that they're going to back the AFLW for 2021, are you going to decide to stay with Mayo in the Gaelic football, or would you consider a move back to the AFLW for Collingwood if they were to offer you some sort of, you know, position again?
Yeah, well, you see, the thing with the Gaelic season now is, like, originally I would have normally, if it hadn't been for the pandemic and all that my Gaelic season would normally be done by the end of September latest. And then I'd normally fly out to Australia in November, and I'd only miss a small bit of a few league games with Mayo. So it was always an easy decision for me to go and to play both.
Okay, yeah.
Whereas now, obviously, the decision is kind of a bigger decision. It's the Mayo season is starting in October now, and we're not 100% sure when it's going to finish, if it's the end of November or if it's the end of December. So it's kind of like I need to get all the details of the exact details of the timing of Mayo and the timing of the AFLW season, and then I suppose make an informed decision. But as of now, I suppose I have until August to actually think that all through and everything. But
and so best case scenario, you'd love to do both, but obviously you'll choose what is what is the best choice for you personally as a person, sort of thing.
Yeah, 100%. I would love to be able to do both, but it mightn't be that I can do both this year. So we'll this year's been just,
there's always, I
suppose, a strange one. There's always next year. So we'll decide. Yeah, we'll decide when I get all the details and all the relevant information from both sides. I'll make a decision then.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. And speaking of your time in the Gaelic Athletic Association, you won a title with DCU in 2018. After, from what I've read, you've lost a few, but getting that winning feeling, what was that like finally after losing a few, etc.? Not with DCU, but in general, and then, you know, winning that grand final, for lack of a better term. Was it like, did you feel a bit of a monkey off your back? And like, what was the feeling on the field after winning that game?
Yeah, I suppose with DCU, we were 4 years trying for that, and we kept losing out marginally in every game. It was always the small percentages that were letting us down. We worked really hard on our team culture, and we had a really good bond that year, and our coach was worked really well alongside us. So we'd all the resources and all the facilities, and everything was right, and all we had to do is essentially perform. So I suppose when you culminate all the events of the 4 years and the losses and the heartbreaks and everything, winning that game was huge, and the game went to extra time as well. So it was
Wow.
literally a marginal win again, but again the small percenters. So it was amazing. I can't really describe, I suppose, the feeling that you have, the elation that you feel in your body, but it was an amazing time, and we had such a great group of players at that time. So I'll forever cherish them memories.
That's wonderful to hear. And obviously, being from Ireland, and playing Gaelic football, that brings into question: did you play and or follow any other sports while you were growing up? Whether that's Gaelic football, soccer, cricket for some reason. I don't know why that came to mind. Rugby, any of those sort of sports, or was it always Gaelic football?
Yeah, I played Gaelic football since I was about 11, but before that I played soccer. So I played soccer all the way up. I played with numerous clubs around Ireland, and I played with the Irish under 15s, 17s, 19s,
Oh
and
wow.
then the senior. So that was kind of my first love, I suppose, as such. And obviously when I was playing with Ireland, it was my number one, because I love playing at the highest level.
Oh, everyone
And
does, yeah.
so I was kind of trying to juggle that and playing with Mayo at the same time, but it was, like both sports demanded an awful lot of my time and energy, and it got to a stage where I could no longer uphold both sports, and I felt like I was letting down my teammates, and I suppose, being a jack of all trades and a master of none. So a very Irish saying.
Very, yeah.
So I wanted to have I wanted to focus on one. So then I decided that once I've kind of did everything that I wanted to do in soccer,
Yep.
I suppose I went to back to Gaelic, and Gaelic was always my first love. So it was, I suppose, my strong passion and my roots and my family and all that kind of stuff, a real sense of community and playing Gaelic football. So I went back to that, and then got the opportunity then to go and play AFL. So I haven't regretted not playing soccer over the last few years, but it's not something I've closed the door on fully. I would like to think future life that maybe I'll go back and play soccer again, because I had great memories attached to it all.
Well, you never know. And yeah, like you said, when one of the deciding factors that helped you switch to Gaelic football full time was the more or less you'd done everything in soccer, as in you'd played at the national level, which is more or less the highest level that you can do for any sport, which definitely would have helped you with your deciding to go with Gaelic football. But that's awesome to hear. If you could have one superpower, what would it be and why?
That's a tough one now. I would probably like to be able to be invisible
Okay.
at times,
Okay.
and be a fly on the wall. And
Okay.
that, I think that would be just a funny one. You could play pranks on your friends. You could do loads of things with that superpower. So that's my one anyway.
No, that's really cool. And obviously we've mentioned about the AFL and the AFLW. What are your thoughts on the AFL announcing, I think I already asked this actually the other day, about them backing the AFLW for 2021?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's a big statement for women in sport, and they're backing it, and it's been a challenging time for everyone and for the AFL, obviously, over the last few weeks. So it's a big statement that they're going to continue to back the ladies' game, and it's exactly what we need. So delighted when I saw that be released yesterday, and looking forward to, I suppose, what else they can I suppose develop over the next few years, because the standard has improved to no end over the last few years, and it's because of all the stuff that's going on at grassroots level, and the younger players coming through the academies coming up. They are, they can kick with both feet. Like, the standard is really going to get much better, so they're dead right to be investing all the time, I suppose, and effort into it.
Oh, for sure. And that raises actually a really interesting question that I just thought of. Is the AFL and AFLW shown predominantly over in Ireland on TV? I know obviously the Gaelic football and soccer and all that is big over in Ireland, but is there any channels or sort of thing that you can watch AFL when it's on in Ireland, or is it not as known? You sort of have to know about AFL in Ireland to know that it exists, sort of thing?
Well, because there's so many Irish girls who went over this year, and because there's a few Irish lads as well, there is keen interest just purely down to, I suppose, the Irish going over. So there is channels that you can watch it on TV, and there is a keen interest, and I suppose people are intrigued to know like what is AFL, what does AFLW look like in Australia, and the only way I can describe it to people in Ireland is it's like the GAA in Australia, but bigger.
Yeah, but bigger and add tackling and goalposts instead of goal nets.
Yeah. And it's like I said, it's like nearly like a religion over there.
Yeah.
It's the biggest sport in Australia, really. And I suppose GAA is similar that way over here. People live and die for GAA, and it's the same thing with AFL over there. And there's such a strong culture, and everyone loves it, and hence why everyone was so upset, I suppose, to see the last few weeks of there being no AFL to watch, and the excitement that was even building just looking from afar on Twitter and all that of games coming back on TV again. So it's just such a huge part of your culture, and when you think of Australia, you think of AFL, and when you think of Ireland, you think of GAA. So it is a big part of us and a big part of Australia too.
No, that's honestly for sure. And speaking of the GAA and the AFL, obviously anyone who's listening will know about the international rules competition. If there was ever let's hopefully hope it's a when the international rules code version of it turns into a women's division, or there may already be one, I'm not 100% sure, would you jump at the opportunity to play for Ireland if you were given the opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see that happening. I think there's a lot of skills from GAA that can be transferred across to AFL and vice versa as well. I think that Gaelic football could learn things from AFL. So I think there's a great scope there for a real strong connection between the two, and there has been obviously with the men's over the last few years.
That's why I was thinking if they could bring a women's division of that, that would be amazing to see. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, it would be such a great thing for women in sport, I suppose, as well, and to be able to see that pathway and kind of set their sights towards a goal of achieving something like that. So I think down the line, hopefully that will happen. But obviously it's a big start that Irish girls have even been going over to Australia. So
it is.
I suppose it's the next thing.
Well, I mean, one of your fellow teammates, Aisling Sheridan, is from Ireland as well. So with so many Irish girls going over to Australia for the AFLW and quite a few at Collingwood, did it help make your transition to Collingwood and Australia life in particular a bit easier for you?
Yeah, well, last year, I suppose my first year, there was only 2 or 3 of us over there. So we kind of just stayed in touch, but we were all from different clubs. So you're obviously kind of doing your own thing quite a lot at the time. But this year there was loads of us based in Melbourne, and we'd often meet up and go for brunch or whatever, and
call it the Irish connection sort of thing.
Yeah, and just I suppose talk about the the highs and lows of it all and how everyone was getting on. It was always like home away from home, and it was lovely that you could have that connection and that understanding, and that we could really relate to each other and know that there was some really good days of training, and there's other days where you're extremely frustrated because things aren't going your way, and
you're
it's not a
home
position
and all that sort of stuff. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, and it's not a position that the girls, I suppose, who went over, some of them are the best in the country over here, and they not used to being in a position where you're almost vulnerable because you're playing against girls who have played half their life, and then we come over and we have to learn the game and learn everything from the start.
Yeah.
So it can be really frustrating being in that position. But again, with the hard work and persistency and a bit of stubbornness, they've all got there, and the Irish girls did really well this year. So it's great. It's been a great representation for the country.
No, that's fair. And honestly, that's wonderful to hear because obviously with a lot of different sports in the world and obviously, players going from other countries to play, obviously there's sometimes, as I just mentioned, players from a certain country, they play for a certain league or a certain team and they all sort of have that connection and they bond over that. Kind of like with the British when they come over to Australia to play rugby league sort of thing. What was it like for you running onto that AFL field for the first time in the AFLW?
It was it was amazing. It was down in Geelong and it was nearly a full stadium that day. It was one of the opening rounds and it was just like it's almost a blur to me because it was one of them experiences where I was kind of like, I don't really know what's going on here, but I was like, also I remember being in the game being like, oh, like my position and I felt was a bit off. I was a bit like, where am I meant to be? Like, whereas I'm used to playing games that everything comes off instinct, whereas I didn't have that instinct. Whereas I've learned everything and I've trained everything and I trained quite hard, but it was like, I just lacked that bit of instinct. So the experience from that point of view was kind of like, it was a huge learning. I completely settled in game 2, 3, 4, got better as the season went on, but the first game was definitely a bit of a blur. But it was still an amazing experience and, one I will cherish. And I do remember looking around me being like, wow, this is not what I expected. And it's different playing in a crowd that's not full of Irish people because that's what you'd be used to. So you're used to playing, like you didn't really know, I suppose, that many people in the crowd, but all the same, you were like, this atmosphere is class. And I could really feel what AFL is about standing in the middle of the pitch, looking around me.
Wow. That's awesome. And honestly, that kind of wraps up the questions that I have, except for one. And is there any advice you would like to give any young girls who are aspiring to make it in either the AFLW or the GAA ladies or any professional sport, really?
Probably for me, it would be make sure to learn as much as you can from the people around you. So it would be to ask as many questions as you can and learn and know that people are giving you feedback to make you better, not because they're trying to put you down. So to be able to take feedback on board and learn, and also to always work hard, because that's really what separates, good players from great players is the work ethic that they put behind it. Like, good players don't just achieve things out of the blue because of talent. They achieve things because they often work harder and smarter than others. So it's to know that get good people around you, work hard, take feedback, and that's probably all from me. Thanks very much for having me.